What's up, y'all? It's Joelle and welcome back. This is my very first video that I'm filming as a sit-down video in my apartment in college, so very excited about that. But it's also quite early, so bear with me if I'm not the most enthusiastic or if my voice is a little tired. But I'm trying really hard to get this Q&A out for you guys before the ED deadline, which I know is coming up. Just a little update or oh my gosh, I dropped. Just a little update or context for you guys if this is your first video of mine that you're seeing. I'm a Dartmouth senior. I recently got back from a gap year, but I'm graduating in the fall of 2019. So I just wanted to film a video answering all of your guys' questions to hopefully be helpful for anyone trying to make that ED decision or trying to just figure out whether you should apply or not in general. Since I know this is going to be a longer video, I'm just going to dive right in. I'm starting out with some more application related questions and then just going into like all about Dartmouth kind of thing. First question was, did you apply ED? Yes, I applied ED. I have a whole video detailing like how I got into Dartmouth. Like it's titled How I Got into the Ivy League. I know, super obnoxious and clickbaity, but whatever. I want people to be able to find it if that's what they're looking for. I detail all of my application like details there. So if you want to see that, go check it out. Cause yeah, I was also a legacy and I had a sister who was at Dartmouth when I was applying. Next question I get a lot is why Dartmouth? So like why did I apply? Obviously having had parents who went here and a sister was here, I knew a lot about the school, I was very familiar with it, so that had a lot of impact on my decision. But at the same time, I actually debated a lot between applying here and applying to other schools, early decision. But what ultimately swayed me here was, first of all, the course offerings. It's liberal arts, which meant that I would be able to try a breadth of different topics and subjects while I was here, as well as being able to focus on what I actually was interested in, which ended up being econ and film. Also, right before I applied, they recently had a huge campaign to put a ton of more resources into the arts. They built a new Black Visual Arts Center, which is a beautiful building. That's where all my film classes are. And I know that really spoke to me. Also, from a Christian perspective, like I prayed about it a lot. I was like, God, where do I go? Like, where do I apply? And I really felt like Dartmouth was it. And I think a lot of the way that my sister prepared the way for me in like introducing me to people and things, preparing me for things that I might encounter, was so helpful and really helped smooth out my Dartmouth experience. So I'm super thankful to have ended up here. It's funny, when I reflect on like having prayed about it, I'm like, wow, God really knew that I was gonna meet some of like the most amazing people I've met in my entire life in college. Dartmouth also, because it's so small and isolated, and I'll get into this more in a later question, you have the opportunity to build community that I just don't see at other schools. It's super safe. It's in the middle of freaking nowhere in the woods in Hanover, New Hampshire. Like there's very few people with bad intent. So like the fact that I can go to the library, leave all my stuff out on a table and leave and go to the bathroom and not worry about anyone stealing any of my stuff is huge. Partially because people here are for the most part very privileged and have no reason to steal anything, but honestly, it makes a big difference when I'm just thinking about my personal safety and security. Also, Dartmouth is such a school rooted in tradition, where a lot of the things that I experienced as a freshman, like little traditions and stuff like that, my mom, who went here like almost 30 years ago, experienced the same things. So it is really cool to just be able to like share those experiences and also just have this like really deep connection with all the students, with all the current students as well as all the other alums, because you kind of experience the same Dartmouth together, and Dartmouth really puts an emphasis on maintaining those traditions, which I love and I think they're so funny. And Dartmouth is just such a like crazy wacky place. People dress up in like flair and costumes and wacky stuff to go out, and I love Dartmouth. I could go on and on and on. Like just watch any of my Dartmouth videos and you'll see just me loving Dartmouth. Next question is tips on applying. Again, I detailed this a little more out in my college app video, so if you're interested in that, please go check that out. But basically, the ways you can make your application stand out are by being passionate authentically. People want to know what you're interested in, like what motivates you, what like can you talk about for hours and not get bored of. I think people oftentimes get too caught up in trying to be impressive and have like emphasize the credential that maybe sounds the best, when really it doesn't distinguish you in any way, because anyone could be really smart or anyone could, I don't know, getting an award or something doesn't really say much. It's like, okay, well, what did you do that got that award and what motivated you to do that? Like, what is your interest that you will be able to contribute to the school? Next question is, what would you have done if you didn't get in? and that's by Alondra Gonzalez. Thanks for asking. If I weren't at Dartmouth, I would have continued to apply to all the other schools that I prepared applications for. I wrote the applications for like 13 different schools. I obviously only really sent in Dartmouth because it was early decision, but I had my other applications ready. My other top choice colleges, I guess, were UPenn. I was really interested in their business program, and Georgetown. I also really liked Northwestern, but I think Georgetown and UPenn were like my top two. Moving on to like the more about Dartmouth questions. Rito Nguyen asks, advice to someone who wants to apply but is worried about the isolation location. So kind of as I touched on earlier, I really don't mind the isolation. I think the biggest impact it makes in my perspective is just the lack of diversity and lack of food, which yes, those are two very big things, but you can adapt for it, and I think it's very necessary to learn how to adapt for it, because in terms of being bored or like feeling isolated, I guess it honestly doesn't bother me that much. I have to acknowledge though that like when I'm at Dartmouth, I'm so much less up to date about like cultural happenings, like oh my gosh, like these movies came out and I had no idea, or like someone's new album dropped and I had no idea because I don't listen to the radio, like I don't know what songs are popular anymore. But like to me those are all very trivial things. In terms of food, I just order a bunch of Asian snacks online and have them shipped to me here if I'm missing Asian food. And I think since the terms are so short, when I'm here, I'm focused on being here, being engaged with the community, being engaged with all like the things that Dartmouth has to offer. And I'm not really out here trying to complain about what they don't have, because there is so much to enjoy and take advantage of. As a city person, as someone who's from San Francisco, coming across the country into the forest, it's very possible to just enjoy and embrace, but it does take a conscious decision to say, hey, like while I'm at Dartmouth for these short 4 years, I'm going to enjoy everything that Dartmouth has to offer. With doing that, it opens up all the possibilities of enjoying New England and Dartmouth and all the weird specific Dartmouth things that there are to enjoy that you won't ever get again in your life. Sorry for the changes. It's a few questions I just saw on my Instagram that I wanted to answer. I know I have really bad transitions with this stuff, but the first one is, how different has it been not having your sister around at school? I would say very different, where my sister was a big reason of why I went to Dartmouth, and she was a big part of adapting me to school. So that's largely what I try to do in making these videos, is provide advice and like replicate what my sister did for me in coming to Dartmouth. In what way has Dartmouth changed you most for the better or worse? I would say definitely mostly for the better, in making me a more hardworking, driven, compassionate individual that doesn't judge people based off of like initial pretenses and like first impressions, and also has made me a lot more aware of like what the rest of the world is like, just by seeing more different people and learning about really awesome people who are interested in so many different things, and it's just taught me so much about living life and being independent and all of that. And Max asked, when do you find time to make films? I don't. I simply don't. I'm actually in a filmmaking class right now though, which is dope, but making videos, even, so hard to find time. Anyways, that's all. Back to your regular scheduled programming. Eliza Gallant asks, do you think Dartmouth has a good social work-life balance? And actually, compared to other schools that I visited, other Ivies and like other schools of friends like MIT, Harvard and whatnot, I would say yes. For the most part, people here do a lot outside of their schoolwork. So I know that's not necessarily social, but a lot of times it is. So people here do work very, very hard academically, but every person you talk to has at least like one or two big interests outside of that, and they devote a lot of time to that. It's maybe where a lot of their friends come from, and I think people are really good at like diversifying what they do. Like very few people that I'm friends with, at least, spend all of their time in the library. Like oftentimes they'll leave due to like a dance practice, or they're in an a cappella group, or maybe they're in like a career-centered club like Women in Business or Women in Computer Science or something like that. Greek life is also huge here, which I'll talk about more later as well, and I have other videos on for more details, but I think people definitely like really value their social time, and like it's a big way for people to like relax, and they understand that if they devote all their time to studying, they're not going to do as well because they'd be neglecting their other needs. So while Dartmouth is very academically inclined, people still really know how to have fun, which I really appreciate. I don't know if I wrote this name down right, but Sydney Strickland asks, what's your biggest regret in the college app process and in college? And then, ooh, I have a nice little light bounce when I do that. Ooh, look at that lighting. Biggest regret in college apps? I mean, honestly, I'm one of those lucky people where it worked out very well. I would say I don't have a ton of regrets in terms of my college application process. In terms of at Dartmouth, ooh, this is kind of personal. This is like super unrelated to like academic things because I think I've been really enjoying the way that I've like managed my academic life here. Maybe there are resources that I could have taken advantage of better, but I never feel like I've really missed out on much while I've been here. I think I've done a pretty good job of like kind of diving in. Freshman year, oh my gosh, like people mature so much that year, and like there were definitely some situations, particularly situations with boys, that I didn't handle particularly well. I still like grapple with this. I feel very bad about like this one situation with a guy that wanted to date me and I wasn't sure, but I didn't give him a straight answer. We were just like, I was just like, haha, we're like still friends though, aren't we? You know, and I was like going along with that where it was like, we're friends until I decide whether I want to date or not. And to him, he was not on that same page. And then also I was just being a terrible person. I like would ghost him a bunch on text because honestly, like accidentally. So that was really bad. I was such a jerk. Oh my gosh, don't do that to people. Be very clear with your intentions and always stay considerate of other people's feelings. Anyways, moving on. Do you know any transfer students? And do you know their grades? No, I don't know people's grades. I'm sorry. I also don't know why that's relevant. But yes, there are definitely transfer students from other schools within the US. There's also people doing exchanges internationally. Definitely is a thing. They do fine. Next question is one that I get all the time, so I'm answering it here. For anyone who's like thinking about Insta DMing me this question, watch this video first because I give the same answer every single time. But people always ask, what is it like to be at Dartmouth as a Christian? And again, I think I have other videos that also touch on this, like maintaining our faith in college and stuff like that. But really, I think it's the same as anywhere else where yes, it is not a Christian environment, it's a very secular school, but I don't think that should really make an impact on you in your life because there are Christian communities here. It is very easy to find them, especially your freshman fall. They reach out to you, they send all these like campus-wide emails. Every single club will send a ton of campus-wide emails the first week of the fall term. So it's very easy to find Christian community. It's more like you have to be proactive about plugging yourself in, which is why in my Maintaining Faith in College video, I talk about what steps you as an individual have to take to maintain your faith. Because I would say, yes, it's not going to be easy, but it's not really going to be easy anywhere in this country. Actually having a genuine relationship with Jesus takes work wherever you are. So if you are worried about social pressures of people, you know, of being in an environment that's like not Christian, that is definitely a real thing. It's definitely a real struggle, but I think you're gonna have that pretty much everywhere, even at Christian schools. So just something to keep in mind. I don't think that just should discourage you. I think that should really encourage you to focus on strengthening yourself and saying, okay, if I'm gonna be in an environment where I am not necessarily super supported by my community, I'm gonna be around a lot of people who are not Christian and will probably heavily disagree with me, like really solidify why you believe what you believe before coming in here. Also definitely look for Christian communities here. The Christian communities here are wonderful. Obviously, like any community, like none of them are perfect. I always say this, but you really cannot come into any environment looking for the perfect community, but look for one worth investing in and worth you bringing your full self, being able to contribute something. So another question that I get a ton that I want to address is, what is it like being Asian at Dartmouth? Yes, people can be racist. There are some incredibly unfortunate humans that just do not understand microaggressions or cultural sensitivity and stuff like that. But again, you will find that most places in the United States. Unfortunately, maybe not as much in big cities, but in a lot of, like, in just like the US as a whole, like look at our president. Like there are people who just don't really have a value for diversity and cultural integration and like cultural appreciation and stuff like that. And you really have to develop a tough skin to learn how to not internalize it. Because I think one of the worst things people do is they internalize negative stereotypes about their own culture, and to the point where they like project onto other people. They like assume that other people are feeling the same way, and a lot of times that's just not true. And I struggled a lot with this. I have, again, a whole separate video on being Asian American in like at Dartmouth. If you're wondering about the Asian American experience, please go watch that. But truly, I don't think that that should be a deterrent for going here. I think that it's a skill, learning how to navigate people who are different from you, learning how to navigate like a largely white homogenous environment is a super important skill. And the best thing that you can do is to like prepare your heart to not get bitter, and honestly like give people the benefit of the doubt. I always say this, but like holding short accounts and being quick to forgive someone even if they do something or say something that's not nice or inconsiderate. Like you have to learn how to like forgive people because that's gonna happen, and holding on to it is only gonna be detrimental to yourself. And on like a lighter note, like I've found really amazing Asian communities here. A lot of good friends here are Asian, which I wasn't expecting, but just like obviously we gravitated towards each other, had a lot of same interests such as dance. I think that there's a pretty solid Asian community here where people want to see each other do well, and I think that's dope and I really enjoy it. Next question is, what kind of student succeeds at Dartmouth, or is there a certain type of person that will do well? I would say definitely, like most other schools, I think Dartmouth definitely serves extroverts, unfortunately, but that's just like our educational system in general. Like those who show up, who speak up, who are bold and like present well tend to do better, have a little easier time, like both socially and academically. But at the same time, like people all across the board do well, but of course like with differences you have to learn to adapt. So Dartmouth, I always say this, but like Dartmouth is like a predominantly white school. It's a very wealthy school. Being able to be around people who are very similar to you, being able to be around people who are very different from you is super important. I know, I think also Dartmouth is a little bit of a wackier school. Like I say, there's all these traditions and stuff like that. The people who tend to enjoy it most are the ones who are down to just go along with it. I would say go along with the traditions and like the funny, funky little things people do on campus, and not be like, that's dumb. But they're just like, oh, we're in college, like let's have fun with it, you know? So people who are down for a good time, I think, tend to do well. Also people who are very self-motivated. Dartmouth has a lot of self-motivated, very engaged people who will take advantage of the resources that are presented to them and seek out the resources that they need. Next question is about how much does Greek life affect campus or life at Dartmouth? As you guys might have heard, Dartmouth has a crazy reputation about being like a wild Greek school. To an extent, that is true, where our Greek life, like in terms of percentage of students, is absurdly large. I think like 60% of the student body is involved in Greek life or something. But because of that, Greek life, the way that it manifests is way more low-key in my opinion. It's not like a huge state school where like your best friends are in your frat, like you only hang out at your frat. But because Dartmouth is so small, you see a lot of people, same people, consistently over time. You don't need that structured social space to have friends. Like people really use it to just augment their experience, like to branch out in a different area, but it does not need to be your entire life. But I would say that like the social spaces are very Greek. So it's not like you have to be affiliated to have fun, but a lot of the spaces that do host parties and whatever are Greek houses. There are just not a whole lot of alternatives because there's no bars or clubs around. But with that, it actually interestingly forces Greek life to be way more inclusive. So the fact that 60% of the population can rush and will get Greek houses is very interesting to me. Also, every party on like an on night, like Friday, Saturday, Wednesday, whatever, frats that are open, who are like registered for the night, cannot really deny people unless they're at fire capacity. So really all you need to go out is your Dartmouth ID, show that you're a student, and you can get in to any party. There's no lists. There are like exclusive parties, but those happen at like earlier hours before it's normal to go out. But there are also a lot of alternatives, like Dartmouth I think really tries to push to provide like alternative things to do on Friday and Saturday nights, so with little concerts or like bringing in like beers from local breweries and stuff like that, which I think is really sweet. So while Greek life is very visible on campus, I think like the actual impact it makes on your Dartmouth experience is like pretty, I don't know, you can take it or leave it. Oh my gosh, my friend Elizabeth asked, who's your favorite person at Dartmouth? Elizabeth is the sweetest human, by the way. She's amazing, I love her. So definitely one of my favorite people on campus, don't worry. She also asked what my favorite class I've taken at Dartmouth is. And I've taken a lot of amazing classes at Dartmouth. I highly recommend taking some basics. CS1 is a great class just to gain a general sense of how computer coding works. I think it's fascinating. They teach it in a really digestible way for people who have never coded before, and I love that class. It almost made me want to be a CS major, but I was like, I don't want to code for the rest of my life. I also loved Econ 1. I think it's really, really smart just to know a little bit about how the economy works. I'm also currently in a finance class, and it's like one of the most practical classes I've ever taken, where I'm just like, wow, I really didn't know what like banks did and like how insurance works. One class that I would super highly recommend is Engines 12. It's design thinking, which is basically a problem solving method that is really popular in a lot of creative fields, as well as a lot of like business administrative fields, and it's so fun. The professors are amazing. I'm a TA for it now, and will hopefully be throughout the entire year. That class is a wonderful class. It really focuses on like the human experience and like how design shapes the human experience, and it's relevant in so many fields that I think it's just like a good class to take. Okay, Lucy T asks, she's a exchange student coming to Dartmouth, and she's wondering about if there's cultural things for like college universities or whatever that she should know about. If you guys have any answers to this in the questions and in the comments, I'd love to hear. Personally, I would say Dartmouth is like a very old American school, like all of the Ivies are. I obviously can't really speak to a bunch of differences because I've never been to school in another country, but I would say Dartmouth in particular is a very insular, campus-based school, which not all schools are. It's again very isolated, and that's like makes a huge difference. In terms of like the American thing, I think Greek life is like this like a super American thing. For a lot of socialization be focused on these like exclusive Greek houses, very American. And I think just like it'll manifest in little ways, like the food or like the way people talk and like how people interact socially, and as well as like the different things we do for fun, like the fact that we go like apple picking and whatever. I don't know if people in other schools do that. So there's a lot of distinct Dartmouth things that I think will be really fun for you to enjoy, like even going to like a football game, and like there's cheerleaders, and like that's a very American thing as well. You'll have a great time. Lucy also asks, what are some things to do or see specifically during the winter term, because that's when she'll be here, just to like enjoy campus and not miss out on anything? Okay, so for winter term, the skiway will be open. Dartmouth has its own skiway, has buses that go to and from there. You can rent skis, snowboards, all your gear that you might need, but bring winter clothes. Oh my goodness, bring a heavy jacket. I think the skiway is a great way to take advantage of like winter and whatnot. There's also winter carnival, which is super fun, and that's like the big weekend for winter. There's a big weekend every term that's like a party weekend with like lots of traditions and fun little things that are happening. So winter has like an ice sculpture contest, and they also have the polar bear plunge, which people like jump into Occam Pond when it's freezing just for fun. I don't know, I've never done it, probably gonna do it this year. There's also like these ice castles nearby. If you have a homie with a car that can take you, that's like a pretty cool thing to do. I've never gone, but I really wanted to. Oh my gosh, also with the first snowfall of the winter, they send out a campus-wide email that there's like a snowball fight on the green at midnight, which is so fun. Like I love that my freshman year. And yeah, it's literally like the entire school will congregate there at midnight and have a huge snowball fight. And I think it's so adorable that they do that. But anyone who's curious about other things to do, like during the other terms, fall, definitely go apple picking. Definitely go on a sunrise, which is a sunrise hike during like peak foliage when all of the leaves turn like bright red and orange. It's so beautiful. Like I love fall here. Oh, get apple cider donuts from Lou's. Learn how to play Pong. That's like a huge thing here. Dartmouth Pong is just a big thing in general. Homecoming is amazing. During the spring, also, there's a bunch of fun stuff. You can go swimming off the docks or rent paddle boards and canoes from Ledyard at the Connecticut River near the boathouse here. Oh, Ice Cream for You is a local ice cream shop that's like really cheap and gives you huge portions, so it's like such a fun little like excursion to go out there and get ice cream with friends. There's also a mini golf course there that's really cute. Golf for You. Those are just off the top of my head some of my favorite things, but I hope that you just genuinely enjoy it and like can take advantage of all like the strange, fun seasonal things that there are at Dartmouth. But with that is the end of this Q&A. Oh my gosh, I really don't know how long this video is going to be, but I hope that it's helpful, and I hope that it touched on questions that you guys have been having about Dartmouth. Again, for some of these topics, I have really specialized videos that focus on those. I'll link all those down below for you guys and throw them in the cards and whatnot, because I'm able to like elaborate a little more during that. I also have an existing Dartmouth Q&A, so I'll post that as well. But anyways, the sun is changing, so my lighting is getting so whack, but I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Thank you guys so much for submitting all of your questions. And again, if you're new here, if you've not yet subscribed, please feel free to do so. Join the J team, where no one's a bench warmer, everyone's a playmaker. Yeah, and if you have more questions, feel free to comment those down below, and I'll try to respond to them like the best of my ability. I so appreciate all of your guys' support trying to juggle school and YouTube. Just your guys' responses and comments, subscriptions, honestly make it so worth it to wake up super early to plan and film a video before classes. I thank you guys so much. Love you guys. Jesus loves you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.